What's going on, Falcon fans? It's your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. It is draft week for the NFL, and our Atlanta Falcons are in a really good spot, being at the number 8 overall pick. I have 4 points that I want to talk about today with you guys and give you my view on what the Atlanta Falcons good and how I think the spot they're in and what directions that they could possibly go in this NFL draft this year at the number 8 spot. We always know that it's just not about one pick, but Thursday is coming up soon. 25th, we'll see who the Atlanta Falcons decide to select at that spot. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit the notification bell so you know that I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys are here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout YouTube universe so more people can come in and hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So, guys, like I said, the draft is here. It's this week. It's been a long time since free agency period. Falcons made a few moves and things like that. We know um, going into the offseason, it was all about who's going to be the quarterback. After free agency started, within that first day, we already had that question answered. And it got kind of boring after that. They did add moves, on the offensive side of the ball with receivers, kind of revamped the receiver room. But overall, guys, it's been really quiet. Not a whole lot to talk about, and really the focus has been on this draft, which and the crazier part about the draft for Atlanta Falcons is being boring as well, because if you look at most of the mock drafts that most people have put out for Atlanta Falcons, they have linked us to taking the pass rusher out of Alabama, Dallas Turner, which of course most people would not have a problem with that, but it's just been so chalky. If you think about it, you know, going over most draft boards, that's what it seemed like the Atlanta Falcons are going to do. However, we have no clue what's going to happen with this upcoming draft, especially with our number 8th overall pick. And that's why I feel like the Atlanta Falcons is such a good spot because of where they're placed in this draft. And we're going to talk about it. But the first point why I really believe they're in a good spot is because of the way they built this roster. We talked about it coming out last season, how they really went heavily in free agency on the defensive side of the ball. And then in the draft, they focus on, going offense again at number 8 with Bijan Robinson. The second round pick, they went and picked Matthew Bergeron to solidify the offensive line, right? So this year they kind of did it a little different direction. They went offense, right? We had to fix the offense side of the ball. We know the big concern was the quarterback position. They kind of revamped the receiver room because they had to, because most of all the receivers they had on the roster last year was not under contract. So only guy we actually really had on the contract for the receiver room is Drake London. So when you look at what the Atlanta Falcons had to do this year, and from a roster build standpoint, you feel like they really cover all the things that they really needed to do within the free agency period, right? Now, I still say this roster is not complete, but it was interesting. I don't know if you guys seen the little video that the Atlanta Falcons put up a couple of days here, and one thing that Terry Fontenot mentioned that if the Atlanta Falcons actually had to go out and play a game, you know, just say this weekend, they would be able to because they feel like the roster is in a good place. And I can agree with that. So, yes, it's still some holes that we definitely need to fill, some the needs, some depth pieces that we can't add. But if the Atlanta Falcons actually had to go and start the game today, and that's based off, everybody come back from the injuries like a Grady, like a Kirk Cousins, and things like that, right? Those guys could actually go out because of the roster, the way it's built. Um, it still needs on the roster, definitely. Of course, we still need to figure out the number 2 cornerback position. But the Atlanta Falcons did bring in Antonio Hamilton, veteran cornerback. They brought in Kevin King as well, another veteran cornerback. Of course, we already had Clark Phillips, Mike Hughes, the offer here to go along with AJ Terrell. So Natron Books was still here as well. So we had cornerbacks on this roster. So do we need a number 2 overall cornerback to go beside AJ Terrell? Probably yes, we do need that, right? But if the Atlanta Falcons had to go out and play a game, right, the veterans and the the list of corners we have right now, definitely those guys could fill a role, not for the season, but we looking for the future. Yes, we probably want to go out and draft the cornerback. If you look at the pass rush, yes, it is a big need. It's no secret that we need to go out and address the pass rush. It's no secret at all that Atlanta Falcons need to address the pass rush. So we're not going to have any illusions that to be the case. But if the Atlanta Falcons had to go out and play a game today, yes, they could go out Rizzo Carter on one side. They can have Armor Ebiketie on the other side. We can see what D'Angelo Long is all about. We can see if he could be that guy. We got 80 talking about NBA playoffs. My Lakers not playing today, and so I don't really care about NBA playoffs today. And I'm talking it's draft week. That's the most important thing about just because the Cowboys don't got nothing to talk about in the draft, my Falcons do because, like the title says, the Atlanta Falcons are in a good spot at number 8. So, but guys, looking at our roster overall, I think this roster is really built for if the Atlanta Falcons had to go out and play and compete today. In the NFC South, they could. However, we don't have to worry about that, right? Because we got the draft, we can still add pieces. We got 8 picks in this current upcoming draft. We still can add pieces on the free agency front because there's still some talent out there as well to add depth to this roster. So, but if we're looking at the roster build right now, the Atlanta Falcons is not pressing. They're really not pressing to be able to add something at that number 8 spot, which makes them in a good spot. That's why I really want to talk about this roster across the defense because I think we all agree that Atlanta Falcons probably add something on the defensive side of the ball. Um, this time we think they are right. They have went offense the first 3 years of the Terry Fontenot regime, but they could definitely go defense this time, and that's what we all hoping for. So let's see how this thing shakes out. But looking at the roster, I mean, bringing in Eddie Goldman if he decides to stay with the team this year, Contavious Street, adding that depth on the defensive front is good. Um, I think second year guys is really going to be able to take a jump as well. So I really like the way this roster is built right now. Still have holes. I'm still going to give it an incomplete, and I can do that because we still got the draft coming up. We still got free agency additions we're going to add. We still got undrafted guys they're going to bring in to try to make this roster. So it's incomplete. But if the Atlanta Falcons had to go out and play at a game today, I think they could definitely compete. Of course, that's if everybody's healthy, ready to go. And that's the way I like it. So we got our two-headed monster in the backfield with Bijan, Tyler Algier, Drake, uh, Kyle Pitts like he's ready to go. Darnell Mooney coming in, getting Rondell Moore, Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, all those guys in space. This offense is going to be, I think, it's going to be explosive. I really do. I really believe it's going to be explosive. And you got, the perfect point guard and Kirk Cousins, somebody that want to distribute the ball to his playmaker. So, this roster is in a good build. That's my first point why I believe the Atlanta Falcons are in a good spot at number 8. All right, so let's go to my next point here. And the next point is really what it really boils down to is picks 1 through 7. Right. So if we're looking at this draft, and if you're looking at the first 7 picks in this draft, right, which is going to be entertaining to say the least, right? I think we all believe that the first 3 picks is going to be a quarterback with the Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots. It was just reported that the Patriots probably are not moving out of that number 3 overall pick. So more than likely they're going to take a quarterback there. And we all feel like the 3 quarterbacks that's coming off the board probably going to be Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jalen Daniels, or however it sorts out, right? We kind of figured that those three guys are going to be the first three picks. Could be some could be a curveball in there. JJ McCarthy might be one of the guys. We don't know. So if that's the case, I still believe it's going to be the first three picks are going to be quarterbacks, which brings you to just the next four before you get to Atlanta Falcons. At number four, I think the Cardinals probably going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, so right now, guys, it's looking like it's chalk based off all the mock drafts that you've seen. Three quarterbacks, one of the receivers going to go probably Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, a lot of people have Malik Neighbors ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. That could happen. You don't know, the team flavors or anything like that because we don't know their draft boards, but they can definitely um, go and you see a guy like Marvin Harrison, make Malik Neighbors go over a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. And we don't know, right? We've seen stranger things in the draft before, right? We have seen it, right? We've seen the Bears draft another quarterback out of Carolina, number 2 overall. We've seen it. So when people say that it won't happen, we have seen it happen a lot. Crazy things happen. We saw um, the kid out of the Jets just get drafted and now they want to get rid of him, right? It's number 2 overall, right? Because he had a great combine, right? Great pro day, making throws, in shorts and things like that. And then they decided to go out and draft the number 2 overall. So we have seen crazy things in the draft, and so you cannot. That's why draft is so unpredictable because all these scouts and guys, TV personalities and things like that, analysts and everything. Everybody put their power in. They look at what they see on film, but they have no clue of what these football front offices, believe and things like that. So that's really what it boils down to. And anybody tells you that they got an idea what these teams want to do, they don't know. They do not know what's going to happen in the draft. So picks 1 through 7 are going to be interesting. Marvin Harrison probably goes number 4. Now number 5, when you look at a team like the Los Angeles Chargers, could really be interesting because Jim Harbaugh might not go receiver at number 5, which they do need a receiver because remember they got rid of both of their top 2 receivers. They lost Everett as well to the Bears, so they need pass catchers with the Chargers. However, Jim Harbaugh is a running, he loves to run the ball, and you have Joe out there that left tackle from Notre Dame is sitting on the board, so he could definitely go tackle, but he could also go where he could pick a pass catcher because he do need to be able to give Justin Herbert some people to catch somebody to throw the ball to, and the fact that this draft class has a lot of offensive linemen in it. So if you don't want to, if you feel like you might be able to get another offensive lineman later on in the draft, you go ahead and get, one of these receivers. Or a lot of people think it's going to be an all pro like a Malik Neighbors, like a Roma Dunze there at number 5, and they can go that route. So, but I still believe that the Chargers going to take an offensive player there as well. Look at number 6. I think the Giants, and I think when all the smoke clears, I think that the Giants is going to stay with their quarterback, and they're going to. Now, this is where it could get interesting. The Giants also need a pass catcher. They got Roma Dunze there. They also probably need to protect their quarterback so they can go tackle as well. So I think the Giants definitely could go offense, right? At number 6. And then it brings you to number 7 with the Titans. We know they want to protect Will Levis. Um, they could get Fashono from Washington, right? They could get that guy. They could go receiver between the Chargers, the Giants, and the Titans. Whoever's left, from offensive standpoint, that's probably who they're going to pick, right? So 1 through 7 is really going to dictate, the Atlanta Falcons draft. I really believe that. I really believe that if you're looking at how the draft shakeouts 1 through 7, and a lot of people believe that number 8 is where the draft really starts, right? Depending on where everybody picks. Now, if we see trade ups from other teams, coming up to get a quarterback because somebody want to take the fourth quarterback off the board, then it's really going to get interesting. So, but I think picks 1 through 7 is really interesting. I can't wait to see how it shakes out. I know everybody else is excited about it, but picks 1 through 7, in my opinion, it's going to kind of dictate where other teams 8 and on going to really how they're going to really shake out. I think, like I said, I think the first 4 picks probably is standard if you're looking at the draft, but I think 5 through 7 is where it's going to start getting interesting because it's a lot of talented guys on that board. Um, that top 10 picks, quality, but do teams go for need? Do they go best player available in those positions? Um, is a quarterback? Is a fourth quarterback is going to get thrown in the mix? We don't know that yet, and we'll just have to find out about that. So um, let's see. We got some comments here. Eddie said New England's trading for Dak. Maybe we don't know. That's stuff like this is could shake up the whole draft if that was to happen. Um, you said Mark Harris Jr. going to Arizona number 4, no matter there. I believe that he could go number 4, but neighbors might go there too. So you don't know. We have seen guys get drafted higher than what some people think. So it won't be a surprise. You also said Chargers already drafted 2 wide receivers in the first round last 2 years. What's their names? What's their names? Because Keenan Allen had a career year last year. Everett had a great season last year. So if the 2 wide receivers they drafted in the last 2 years, they weren't productive, right? If you're productive, you'll be really already showing yourself out. So that don't mean they won't go get receiver again, right? Um, you said Drew Lock will be the quarterback after about 4 games. I don't know, man. I think he's going to hold himself off um, once he comes back. Actually, we don't know if he's going to be 100% back. He said he was. Looking at his previous interview, so the Giants quarterback said he's going to be ready to go. So we'll see. Um, he said Johnson and Guyton. Yep, we haven't heard none of those guys. We haven't heard none of those names. And he said maybe in the 3rd round or later. I can almost guarantee you they're going to get a receiver for the 3rd round. They need a third. They need a receiver. But we do know Jim Harbaugh like to run the ball. So if he don't, emphasize passing the ball a lot, you could be right. I'm not going to, because he's unconventional. He's really, really big on running the ball. That's why J.J. McCarthy is such an enigma to a lot of people because he never really passed a lot. He was not asked to do a whole lot from the passing game. However, you got a Justin Herbert here who's probably led the lead in passing yards a couple seasons since he's been in this league, and so he's going to want to throw that ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jim Harbaugh handled that situation with the Chargers, um, being a run-heavy coach, what he likes to do. He runs a balanced attack. Yeah, that's what I'm just saying. Yeah, he really runs the ball. That's what he likes to do. But guys, like I said, picks 1 through 7, I think that's going to be um, going to dictate a lot for the Falcons. And the Falcons in a good spot. One reason the Falcons in a good spot because we just talked about the last point. The way the roster is built, they're not having to hope this guy followed us, hope this guy followed us. We don't have to worry about that because where we're at right now, I think we're in a good spot where we don't have to worry about where this particular guy is going to fall in the draft at number 8. The question is if we're going to keep to tradition since we've been here with Terry Fontenot and take best player available, right? He consistently said they're not going to reach for guys. They don't like to reach for needs. And if you think about what he talks about, when he thinks talk about, always, go takes the game the way he draft from Ozzie Newsome from the Baltimore Ravens, right? That's where he get his draft philosophy from. Ozzie Newsome always take the best player available. If you look at how the Baltimore Ravens draft, that's what they do, right? That's why they have such good talent on those teams, because they always go best player available. Um, and that's what the Atlanta Falcons have done over the last 3 seasons, right? Unconventional drafts, right? They took a tight end at number 4 overall, um, their first draft, right? A lot of people said you take a tight end at number 4 overall, right? But at the time, he was the best player available on the board. That's why they took him. Um, they took Drake London the following season. A lot of people thought we was going pass rusher at that point, but looking at the board, now, I think the need kind of lined up with the best player available for them, right? Because a lot of people had put Garrett Wilson there, but they like Drake London better than they like Garrett Wilson, so they picked Drake London. Last season, they picked Bijan Robinson. Well, a lot of people believe that he was one of the best players in the entire draft, from just talent alone, right? Potential generational player, right? So that's why they picked Bijan Robinson. So the question is, at number 8 this year, based off how this draft is laid out, will they go best player available? And when you're thinking about things like that, you think about if one of those 3 receivers are still on the board, if the Joe Alt is still on the board, I believe that one of those guys is probably more talented than a pass rusher or a cornerback. Um, so that's where the dilemma start. How are they labeled on their board at best player available? We just don't know, right? We're not in the war room. We don't know how they got it set up, and that's where they're going to get interesting for Atlanta Falcons. However, they're in a good spot, because if you just pick the best player available, you're going to get a good player, right? At number 8, more than likely, do you need it? No, but you're getting a good player. And sometimes just getting a good player is probably better than reaching for a player at a value where the value is not really there. That's how GMs get fired a lot of times. When you reach for a quarterback, um, that probably is not ready, you pick him, number 4, number 2 overall, like Chicago's Bears did a couple of years ago. And that's how you get fired as a GM, when you start to reach, because we need this position, we need this guy, and we're going to get it. Now, at number 8, not saying that one of those defensive players is not at that value, depends on how far down. If they're 12th on their board and they pick them 8, that's okay, right? But if they got them value like in the 20s and something like that, and you pick a guy at number 8, now you're reaching. You're really reaching for that draft, because if you had him drafted that value that low, why would you pick him at number 8? Because you feel like you need him. So that's the philosophy, and a lot of teams do get in trouble with that, going over needs. Um, Vice best player available, the whole ideal of the top 10 pick in NFL draft, you're getting a player that you think going to be a multiple time All Pro player, right? Not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but you're thinking if you get a guy in their top 10, he's going to be a multiple time All Pro. So that's the whole ideal of drafting a guy at the top 10. So you don't want the Atlanta Falcons to because we all want them to take a pass rusher. We need a pass rusher, guys. We haven't had a dominant pass rusher since John Abraham, right? And a lot of people probably know who John Abraham was. You probably got to go look him up. That's how long it been. So, yeah, we had a double-digit sack 2016 with Vic Beasley, but that probably was more the fluke than anything, because he could not replicate it anymore in his 5 seasons. He only did it 1 season out of 5 seasons, double-digit sacks. So, um, the last guy we had was John Abraham. So the Atlanta Falcons definitely need a pass rusher. But is any of these guys to do is any of these guys, value at number 8? I don't know where they have them value as, right? I believe it's more talented guys above them, on the board. It's just the question is how far above, right? If they're right there, good. Let's go get our pass rusher, right? But if they 10 to 15, guys behind, maybe you're going to start to reach. So let's see here. You say they go best player, right? Team fit. Yep, fit is important. That is true. The fit is always important. Team fit, best player available. I do agree with the team fit. Yeah, you definitely don't want to go. But I mean, let's be honest. If you got I'm going out, I'm saying crazy names. I get it. If you got a Lawrence Taylor or Aaron Donald on the board, like, well, we don't really play that scheme, you're going to pick them anyway, right? If you got, if you're a run heavy team and you got Julio Jones on the board, like, I'm going to pick Julio Jones, right? We're going to tailor our offense to add Julio into what we do best because he'll fit in any offense, right? It's some players that'll fit in any scheme you get, right? So I get it. I understand when you say team fit and all that stuff. But man, if you got a player that's just probably potentially could be a Hall of Famer, you're gonna pull him off the board and you just have to figure it out. That's the way I look at it, right? So guys, 1 through 7, that's where I think is going to really tell us a lot. It's like that all every year, but this draft more than anything for the reasons why, because the quarterback position is one thing. It's a lot of needy quarterback positions. The offensive line is deep. It's really deep in this draft. The receiver position is really deep in this draft. So that's why 1 through 7 is really going to be interesting. 80 says, if Raquando the best player available on the board, then you pass over him. If I'm the best player on the board, I can play any scheme, any fit. I can play any position. You put me at nose tackle and it'll be on, right? You put me at pass rusher, quarterback, running back. I can do it all. So you won't have to trust me. If I'm on the board, let's do this thing. I'm just telling you that right now. Going to turn your card in now. Matter of fact, you can pick me over Caleb Williams at number 1 Chicago and I get it done. So that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. So if I'm on the board, if Raquando on the board, let's do this. This we can already just we ain't even got to say nothing else about the draft. Who's number 1? Raquando. That's how you're gonna do it. So let's not fool ourselves now. Let's not fool ourselves. All right. My third point, guys. The third point I want to bring up today is they have an opportunity. The Falcons really have an opportunity to take the best defender in the draft. And this could be because if all offensive players go in the top 7, the Falcons have their pick of the best defensive player on the board, right? Now, the question is, who is that guy, right? A lot of people got Dallas Turner as the best defensive player. I don't know. I don't know. A lot of people got Latu could be the best. I seen a video from Ball Baldy. He just put out a video. He said that he think Latu is the best defender in this draft, right? A lot of people like Quinion Mitchell from Toledo, right? A lot of people like that cornerback, saying he could be the best. You got Terrion Arnold, cornerback, another cornerback from Alabama. A lot of people like Jerry Verse. We know that the Atlanta Falcons like Jerry Verse last year, but he decided to go back to college. So we just don't know who the best defensive player is. But the Atlanta Falcons in a good spot to take one of those guys, right? Now I just talked about top 10. When you're picking a guy in the top 10, right? You want to pick a guy that you know is going to be able to be potentially our pro guy, right? Because you're picking top 10, you paying him big bucks, um, and you hope he can be a day 1 starter coming in. That's why you picked him that high, right? That's why you pick a guy in the top 10. Hopefully, Atlanta Falcons will be in the top 10 again, for a couple of years. Hopefully, we don't have to worry about that. But right now, who is the best defender, right? For me, I'm going with Latu. For me, and I'm just going off production. Um, I like Dallas Turner a lot. I believe potentially he might have the highest ceiling because of his traits that he showed. That, you can't teach get off speed, right? The long arm length that he has, um, kind of weak in the run, but I believe he could definitely um, get better at that, especially with the length of his arm, being able to keep containment on the outside and things like that. But his explosiveness is really good, but I still think he's still just a little raw right now. If you look at Latu, the way he dominated in the Pac-12, and people say it's all about the competition you play, but he was in he dominated that division, right? So I like him, and I think Atlanta Falcons, since they're in the win now mode, um, I think I agree with Baldy. I would definitely probably go with Latu here. Um, Sometimes the Atlanta Falcons and a lot of teams get so caught up on potential on players and ceilings on players. I mean, it's just like with the Indianapolis Colts when they got the quarterback from last year, right? They went off straight off potential because they did not go off production in college because at Florida he was not that good in college. So they went strictly off what they would think his ceiling is going to be, his potential. And that sometimes you have to project that. I'm not saying that. So that's why a lot of people have Dallas Turner because if you look at projections and his ceiling, how high can he go? But I'm talking about production and what they actually did. And for me, Latu is my guy. So that's what I would go with. I keep bouncing back, back and forth from Turner because of the ceiling and the potential, and to a guy like Latu who I just like his motor. I like the way he's already got multiple pass rush moves. Um, they line him up all over the line already. They had it shown where he's lined up over the guards, right? Lined up over the gap. I like that. We seen him dropping coverage. Some people saying he can't drop in coverage. I don't believe that. So for me, um, I don't know the Atlanta Falcons flavor. We're going to find out here. Come here Thursday, which flavor they have for, potentially the best defensive player. But they have an opportunity to take a defensive player. Now, they could throw a curveball and stay with tradition and go offensive guy, right? They could do that. They could go offensive guy again. That'd be 4 years in a row that Atlanta Falcons decide to go offense. They could definitely do that. But I think with Raheem Morris being a defensive minded coach, right? I think they're going to go defense this time. And the fact that they're going to do that, they have an opportunity to potentially take the best defensive player off the board. Now it could be a curveball. One of these teams ahead of them could definitely go defense, right? Somebody could go poach and grab Dallas Turner before we even pick, right? Then we don't know if they thought Dallas Turner were the best. But then if they did, do they go their second option at defense? We'll just have to find that out. So that's some of the things that we definitely have to think about and look and see, where they're going to go. But for me, Sunday, 4 days before the NFL draft, I don't switched again, and I'm going Latu. I think he's the most pro ready guy. Um, and I just want to see. I want them to go untraditional for a change, right? Don't go with the ceiling. Don't go with potential, and just pick a guy that's already productive. He had a great workout at the Senior Bowl down there, and we know how Atlanta Falcons love guys from the Senior Bowl. Quinion Mitchell also, a lot of people saying he was the best guy down there at the Senior Bowl. So, do they go cornerback? If you remember my last video I had, pass rush versus coverage, right? And that was a article by Pro Football Focus where they talk about coverage could be more important than pass rush, right? And but we all know it go hand in hand, right? You got to be able to get the quarterback off his spot, but if you got good coverage, maybe he have to hold the ball just a little longer to let the pass rushers get home, right? So I think it go hands in hand. But if you can put another dynamic corner outside of AJ Terrell, right? Like a Quinn Mitchell, maybe that's what they're thinking. Remember, we do have Jerry Gray, who's was a cornerback in the pros. Um, really had our defensive backfield playing really well last year. Jimmy Lake, our defensive coordinator, who go look at his secondaries in Washington. He was the DC there. Really had those guys playing well, and of course Raheem Morris, who came in the league being a defensive back coach, right? Defensive minded coach. So definitely, they could feel like getting the back end, correct and getting really solid, and then they'll worry about the pass rush later on in the draft. So we don't know their philosophy. We don't know. We're going to find out here soon what they're thinking, but definitely the Atlanta Falcons can take the best defensive player on the board, right? That's what they could do at number 8. So that's where I'm going with it. I think they're in a good spot because they can pull whoever they want off the board at the time. Eddie says Raheem is a round-minded coach. He makes good decisions. He grew up an offensive special teams coach doing defense. Yes, he played. He was an offensive coach. He was our receiver coach when he was with us the first time. So he definitely know both sides of the ball. I agree with you on that. Um, you can't never get enough DBs. You only draft cornerbacks over D line if they're shut down cornerback. That's the truth. That is true. That is true. And I'm telling you, Quinnion Mitchell right now, people saying that he could be that guy. Now, he did play at Toledo, a mid-major, right? So of course that might get knock some points off because of where he played in college, right? However, he did boost his stock up when he went to the Senior Bowl and played against some of those guys at the Senior Bowl, which a lot of people say he was the best player there. And then you go look at some of his games. He actually played against Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, in college, right? And out of all the cornerbacks that Marvin Harrison Jr. Went against, Quinion Mitchell probably gave him the most trouble. It still didn't stop him, of course, because the guy's a freak. But um, Quinion Mitchell probably played him better than anybody else. So that's one of the things you got to think about. Like I said, and those are kind of caliber receivers he's going to be going up against. So you like that, right? So you right. If he's not a lockdown, if he's not a Jalen Ramsey, right, or Deion Sanders, um, Revis, Darrell Revis, somebody like that, you're probably right. They probably shouldn't take him. But if they feel like he's one of those guys, right, he could go over one of the pass rushers. So that is a great point that you made. Um, all right, guys, my last point of the day, and we talked about we went all the way around the biggest reason why I feel like the Atlanta Falcons is in a good spot because they definitely um, have potential to trade back, right? And this could be where would benefit for them. So we just, like I just said, if they don't feel like one of those defenders um, is top 10 worthy, right? And there's still some offensive player on the board, but they just feel like we like the offensive players, but we rather collect draft capital here. And if a team's going to give you a haul for draft capital to go back a couple of spots, right, and you still get one of those defenders that you want, because you got to still remember Brock Bowers probably still be on the board at the time, right? I don't think the Atlanta Falcons going to draft Brock Bowers, right? Like I said, one of those offensive linemen probably still be on the board. One of those three receivers potentially still could be on the board, and of course the quarterback, right? So if the Atlanta Falcons um, have a possibility of trading back, they definitely can do that. That's why this is such a good spot for the Atlanta Falcons, because somebody talented is going to be there, number 8, where the Falcons say, "Hey, I'm taking calls for this guy if you want him, because we got our guy. We don't think he's the value at 8, but maybe he's a value at 13, right? Where the Las Vegas Raiders are drafting, or 12, where the Denver Broncos are drafting, or even the Minnesota Vikings. They lost Kirk Cousins. Do they want to move up to number 8 and get a quarterback there. If their quarterback is still on board, just say JJ McCarthy. And if that's they thinking he's the guy, all right, and he's still there at number 8, maybe they want to come on, move on up to take him in number 8, right? Because they don't want the Vegas or the Broncos to jump ahead of them. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe, like I said, Roma Doomsday is there, and I seen a lot of drafts where the Jets jump the Bears so they can get in front of the Bears and take Roman Doomsday instead of the Chicago Bears there. Could potentially do that. You won't get a whole lot for moving up, for a team just moving up 2 spots in the top 10, but you still get draft capital. You move to the 10 and you still get your defender. That's what I'm talking about. So Atlanta Falcons definitely have an opportunity to really, make this pick count where they can actually add more capital in the draft and building teams, right? Because we all know, and if you look at a team like the Cowboys, right? Um, if you can build through the draft, you can be good for a long time, right? Now, hopefully, we have better success than the Cowboys because they always have great rosters, but they never do anything with it, right? They have a lot of talent on the roster. That's why every year everybody picking those guys to go pretty far because their roster is so talented, right? That's what the Atlanta Falcons are. That's why I want Atlanta Falcons to do really good in the draft, right? Do really good. Get your talent, homegrown talent, right? And if you can build through talent in later round picks, right, where at this point it's not costing a lot, and eventually you're gonna have to pay your stars. It's just the nature of the beast, But hopefully the salary cap continue to rise, and you'll be able to do that and keep your guys, your best guys on the roster. That's what you're hoping. But if you can add more draft capital, right, it's always a good thing. Always a good thing. So how far do they fall back though? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. I to me, I believe the Atlanta Falcons should not fall no further back than pick 15, right? So 15 should be their stopping point because you still want to get a guy that you feel like that can contribute this draft, right? So that's what we're hoping for. Um, if the Atlanta Falcons do trade back, get draft capital, move back to like 15, you potentially could get one of those 5 or 6 guys that I talked about. And when I mean those guys would be a Jared Verse, a Latu, um, a Dallas Turner, a Quinion Mitchell, or Terry Honor. Those 5 guys. I think if the Atlanta Falcons drop back to 15, they still have the ability to draft one of those guys. And I would be pleased with any one of those guys, depending on where they draft them at. So for me, that's why I feel like the Atlanta Falcons are in a good spot, right? Because they still gonna get a good player even if they fall back to 15, right? They're going to get one of those guys. They're going to be able to get a great defender to come in and help this team, a guy that can really contribute this year on this roster, where the Atlanta Falcons is trying to make a playoff run, right? Right. It's no secret there. We know what the Atlanta Falcons are trying to do. They're trying to make a playoff run. So that's that's where it is. Eddie said it's Dak. It's Dak. That's why they can't do anything. Hey man, you drafted Dak. I mean, they got all the talent in the world. They can't never get it done, man. And now, I believe the Dallas Cowboys is going to be third in the division this season, right? And that's behind the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. I really believe they're going to be third. I think the Commanders going to. The Commanders don't have a quarterback. We'll see who they drafted their quarterback, but um, Dan Quinn is going to have those guys ready to play, man. You know, he don't know clock management. Hopefully he got better at that, right? Time management, game management, things like that. But Dan Quinn was really good for the Atlanta Falcons. He got the team to the Super Bowl, right? In his second season as the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. So I believe Dan Quinn will come in and make the Commanders competitive, and I believe they're going to be better than the Cowboys next year. Um, I just got a feeling, right? Don't hold me to the fire of that because I haven't followed, that division as close as I should. But I really believe that Eddie says never. Trey Lance will take over due to injury. Trey Lance, man. People forget Trey Lance is still in the league, man. That that draft, that draft, that Trey Lance draft, man, that draft is insane. Look at the quarterbacks. There's only one quarterback in the entire draft that's up in the got drafted early that's still on their same team, and that's Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy, right? And think about it. See, that's how GMs get fired, right? They go out and 49ers are lucky, right? Because they found Brock Purdy at Mr. Relevant, right? But they gave up all that draft capital to go get Trey Lance and then traded him 2 years later, which is just wild to me. So um, it's gonna be really interesting. He says DQ can coach except for big games. I guarantee you, he already know how to beat the Cowboys. He been with them. He been with them the the last couple seasons. So he already know how to beat the Cowboys, right? So it's gonna be interesting to see um what DQ gonna do. And playing the Cowboys won't be any big games. They're gonna be. I'm telling you, I believe the Cowboys trying to tank this year. I think the Cowboys trying to tank, man. So I can't wait they come to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and we stomp a mud hole in the Cowboys this year. Can't wait. I can't wait till they come and we stomp a mud hole in them. He said, "Bye. I'll talk to you later, man." Yeah. Oh man. I got that's where I'm at today. Like I said, I think the Atlanta Falcons in a great spot, right? This is exciting. Um, it's I did so many mock drafts. I didn't post all of them because it gets tiresome because you just don't know where to go, especially in the later rounds, because you don't know how the draft going to shake out. It's some guys that I would be really, really excited if the Atlanta Falcons was to take, anywhere in this draft. Um, so Johnny Newton, man, from Illinois, if they could get that guy, I like him. Of course, you think of some of these receivers, Lad McConkey, A.D. Mitchell, um, grab one of those guys. TJ Tampa, if we were to get him, in the second round, he's still there on the board. Of course, one of those pass rushers, and I wouldn't even mind if the Atlanta Falcons double up for pass rushers, right? If they get like just say they get a Dallas Turner or a Latu in the first round, and they go get a Nealon on day two somewhere in the draft, right? A Marshawn Nealon, like somebody like that, right? So, um, I just like where the Falcons at, and at this point, adding depth to this roster is where it should be. They focus, and I think they should take some chances on some guys, right? Do the Atlanta Falcons decide to bring in a quarterback, right? Do they get a guy like Spencer Rattler on day two? We don't know. We'll have to see. Like I said, get a Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan, um, a Kool-Aid McKinstry, right? Um, just some guys to think about. Um, a Malik Washington from Virginia, right? Dynamic receiver. We can take him. A Braylon Trice from Washington. Like I said, double down on a pass rusher. Brian Murphy was mentioned as potentially going number 8. I think that'd just be too high for him. Like I said, they can fall back. You can add him to those list of guys that they could pick. If they was to drop back in the draft, right? Nate Wiggins for Clemson as cornerback. Kamari Lassiter, of course, from Georgia. It's a lot of guys that Atlanta Falcons have talked to that they can definitely potentially, taking this draft. So it's just going to be exciting to see, how who they add to this roster. And then what I really like is who they add, from a undrafted spot as well. Because some of those guys we have found gems since this Terry Fontenot regime to come in and take undrafted guys. You got a D Offer, right? You got a Nate Lemon, right? These guys undrafted, right? These guys have really came in and benefited, So guys like that get opportunities, didn't get enough, get enough chance to get drafted, but undrafted guys come in and can have a productive long career as well. So whoever they bring in during this draft period, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait. Um, and please, guys, don't get so uptight about the number 8th overall pick. If it's not who you got, who you like, right? It's going to be a good player regardless. Trust me, we all know that. Might not be the guy you wanted, but it's going to be a good player because most of the time, if you're drafting a guy in the top 10, they're going to be good players, right? You always miss. It's not 100% guaranteed, but most of the time, um, you pick a guy that's going to be able to do something for your team. So that's where it's at. Guys, that's all I have today. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Sunday. Like Eddie said, on NBA playoffs, which for me, I don't care about that. My team lost yesterday, so I don't want to talk about basketball. But we'll just get back to that tomorrow when they play again. But guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for tuning in. Give me your thoughts on what you think about the Atlanta Falcons number 8. What direction you think they're going to go in? Are they going to pick the best defender? Are they going to stick to their formula, taking an offensive guy? Are they going to fall back? And if they do fall back, how far do you think they're going to fall? That's all I have. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.